Hey AfterBuzzers, welcome to an all-new Twin Peaks after show here at AfterBuzz TV. Tonight we're going to be breaking down Season 3, Episode 13, and we are actually having some technical electricity issues, so we're right with you guys, you know? It's a lot of fun. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Twin Peaks After Show here at AfterBuzz TV. I'm your host, Sam Davidson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SamD43. I love this song so much. Lex, where can they find you?
I am Lex Michael. I'm all over social media at the Lex Michael. You guys, James has always been cool.
I know, right?
He's always been fucking cool.
I'm Michael Shirley. Excited to see you guys tonight. Sorry it took us a second to get up here.
Yeah. Sorry.
James has always been cool, and I would still bang James. I'm Lisa Mason Lee. You can find me everywhere at Lisa Mason Lee.
Hashtag I would still bang James. All right, let's make it happen.
Bang, bang, bar.
We don't have a lot of time tonight, but we have so much to talk about. First, let's talk about this Dougie Dale. You know, he's back. Well, Dirty Dale's back, but first we see Dale Dougie with the Candy Girls. That's what I'm calling them.
This
Candy's
wonderful party line where he comes in with the girls and
with the Mitchum brothers.
Doing the conga.
Again, I go, are they Art and Sparkle? Like that is my in all caps notes for that scene.
That's the most into anything I think we've seen Dougie.
Well, and the other thing, too, that I think is interesting is it seems like this scene more or less picks up from where we left them. Now, obviously, they had enough time to go get gifts for Bushnell Mullins, so maybe while they were doing that is when Dougie went home to have that game of catch with Sonny Jim. I don't know how you guys read it, because that's one possibility, and another possibility is we got that sequence a little bit out of time.
Oh God, can we not talk about the timeline?
Right, but I'm going like, oh, maybe it was just like a quick check-in, like, yes, Dougie's still out there, but he was doing stuff with the Mitchums, or maybe they dropped him off at home while they went and bought Battle and Butt a car.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but all we know, though, is that, you know, the little boy, Sonny Jim, has a beautiful new high-tech place to play.
I love that scene.
Oh my God, it's like a little circus in the backyard.
Yeah, I loved that scene. The visuals on that were just so kind of like creepy and like also kind of like adorable at the same time. I got like Major Harmony Korine, like Gummo vibes from
and he's got the light up jungle gym, obviously the gym set, and he's got a trampoline that he can bounce onto, and he keeps making a big circle like an electric current. But we've got this piece of music, and it
golden ball.
Like a golden ball.
And his name is also Sonny Jim, guys. Jim.
But it took me a second to place the music, which is a piece from Swan Lake. And I had to work backwards to Swan Lake because the flag that went up in my head is, oh, it's this piece of score that opens Todd Browning's Dracula, the original from 31 with Bela Lugosi.
Only Lex would know these things.
It's a piece from Swan Lake. So, guys in the chat, give me the direct connection to the plot of Swan Lake, which I will profess not to remember off the top of my head in this particular moment, but I feel like that piece was chosen on purpose.
What a disappointment.
I know, I'm the worst. I will go home right now pleasing probably at least one person.
Lisa, there's a really interesting comment in the chat I think you should read by
Anne
Marie about Candy. Do you see?
Oh, yes. Candy has a passed through a plug look about her.
It sounds crazy, but it kind of, for me, makes sense that they have just been through so many, whatever it is, portals, electricity things that they're fried.
Bags of drugs.
Yes. Well, you know, I'm not sure. If it's drugs, if it's both, or just...
I think they're on like a regimen by a doctor.
I don't know. Are they just the epitome of ditzy girls with some money from the Mitchum brothers?
Okay, I'm going to be real sometimes about David Lynch. I love him dearly, but specifically this show, it doesn't give a lot of love to the female characters, and it makes them one-dimensional, which makes me also think there is another meaning what he's doing to the female characters.
Are you calling David Lynch a chauvinist?
No, I'm not. I think that he's pretending to be a chauvinist, but he's actually making them at the end have a way bigger purpose in all of this, but right now they all seem pretty stupid.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think of a female character on this show that is a strong woman.
Other than Janie E.
But even still, she's the strongest, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know.
But they're like complaining, dumb, bitchy.
Lex, it looks like he's
out
just
there,
vomiting in his mouth.
airheaded.
I think that there is an argument to be made, but I think to really have that conversation, I think it's nowhere near that simple. I think it's a lot more nuanced than that, and I feel like there's no way we're going to have time to break down this episode if we devote enough of the time we have to having this bigger conversation.
All right. We'll do it another time, okay?
Because there really is, I actually think, a really interesting critical analysis through that prism of David Lynch's entire body of work. I think that would be a really interesting conversation to have at some point. I feel like we could make the rest of the time we have left tonight about that topic and nothing else and still not cover all of it.
Okay.
I will say in person, though, David Lynch is really nice and loves women.
I think he does. I'm not saying he doesn't, but this portrayal thus far, I'm a little confused. Okay, let's get into the Dirty Dale with Ray and this arm wrestling situation. Great. Fantastic scene.
Yeah, he shows that we finally see what the farm is, and apparently it's this warehouse, which is a gang headquarters of sorts, and they're captained by Derek Mears, who big body of work, but also played Jason in, I believe, the reboot of Friday the 13th. Mm-hmm. So he's the big dude, and he's the big dude because no one can beat him at arm wrestling.
And did anyone else get and I was like, he's gonna rip off his arm. This is where the one-armed man came from. I mean, I thought that literally it was just he was going to rip off his arm.
Yeah, she thought the one-armed man was going to come from the future.
No, well, I don't know. It was like it's happening again.
Know.
Okay, make fun of me all you want. It's fine. Okay.
That was quite the boys'
I've given
club.
her so much crap about aliens. Just like
I know,
every time
she
I
is.
Yes, queen.
He is. No, he is completely giving me a lot of crap about all of the aliens. But during this scene, so we see them doing the arm wrestling, and there's people watching on a screen. Richard Horn is front and center watching them fight.
And we see, obviously, that Richard Horn, who's been on the run, is hiding out at the farm, which makes sense. And we get this moment, and I think it's there for you to read into the way you want to read into it. But yeah, given, of course, the most popular theory about Richard's parentage, it's very easy to project onto the face he's making this recognition. But we got to talk about the arm wrestling in particular a little bit, because Mr. C, as we've seen, is possessed of far above average strength and reflexes. And watching him just play with this guy was deeply unsettling, but also, I thought, deeply satisfying. Because at no point was Mr. C not playing with him. Just letting him take him all the way down to the table. I'll take you back up, down a little bit further, back to starting position. It's much more comfortable.
I feel like that's what my older brothers used to do with me. And they're like, hey, Sam, you can win. Just kidding.
They punch you in the face like that in the end?
No. I hope not, unless I don't remember
You're
it.
such a girl, Sam.
But I think that was a very cool moment, especially for us as audience members, to see that Mr. C actually, like, he has superhuman powers.
Yeah, did you think that he was going to be, like, super strong or have any abilities to him?
At no point did I think that if they actually arm wrestled, Mr. C would lose.
Okay.
It was a question, to me, it was a question of degrees. It was not, is Mr. C going to win this arm wrestling match? It's going to be, how severely will this other guy be beaten?
And, okay, this guy, Nate, says he was sent to kill Mr. C by Philip Jeffries. A Philip Jeffries reference. Once again, I don't know who put that on the board.
Me?
It was
you. Wrote Phil Jeffries with a heart.
With the more you
like
know.
a shooting star underneath it. So.
Yeah, so the deal was if he wins the arm wrestling competition, then they're going to give him Ray, who's the person he's been pursuing. So, of course, he wins, and we see by how many degrees he does win many, just straight, I guess, kills the dude by punching him right in the face.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if that guy was going to pop back up.
I think he's super dead now.
Smashed.
I think he's pretty deceased now. I think he's
rough.
Yes, and so they hand over Ray, and Ray says Philip Jeffries was the guy who ordered the hit on you, but he's never met Philip, only heard his voice on the phone, and he's got the ring. He's got the owl ring.
Yes, and it dissolves as he dies.
And ends up back
in the red room.
On that same table, the Formica table from Fire Walk with Me. I also, of course, Mr. C, it's like, where did you get that? He knows exactly what the ring is. And Ray says, somebody handed it to me at the prison right before I was let out of my cell. It's like, it was a guard. Maybe it wasn't a guard, it was somebody dressed as a guard. So now I'm wondering, and I'm sure that if we go back and watch it, maybe we'd see a handoff being made in the deep background, but I imagine the face of whoever it is would be completely obscured if that moment even occurs on camera. So I wonder who that might have been.
Yeah, any thoughts, guys?
Well, first of all, I have a very unrealistic fantasy of all of us going to actual Twin Peaks and doing a re-marathon of this entire thing and just loving it. I think that would be so fun. Let's get a cabin.
House would you
Let's
want to
do
stay
it.
At?
It's a cabin. It's a cabin. We'll go to an actual cabin.
So I'm like,
okay.
I'm not going to Sarah Palmer's house.
No, there's a town. All right, I'll tweet you guys about it later.
We can Airbnb it.
Let's talk about Dougie, Dougie essentially, but it's Dale and Tony, his friend who we saw in the first few episodes. And he's feeling a lot of guilt, this Tony dude.
What a wonderful episode for Tom Sizemore, too.
Yeah.
Like, I remember commenting earlier this season how much I enjoyed getting to see him play a character that seemed so contrary to the types of characters Tom Sizemore normally plays. And there were points at this season where I went, oh, maybe because he's into some shady stuff, he's tied in with mobsters, maybe we're going to see him inch back towards the regular Tom Sizemore persona. And then to see him go so aggressively in the other direction, I thought was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, it was funny, but it was very weird watching him
It's so there was something really sad about, like, genuinely sad. I did not expect at all at the beginning of the season that Tony Sinclair was going to generate any sympathy from me, let alone as much as I actually ended up feeling.
It reminded me a lot of the scene with oh my gosh, there's so many people in this show. The guy that, oh my gosh.
What scene? What
Gordon
scene are you talking
Cole.
about?
Guy whose head exploded.
Oh, Hastings.
What's that
Hastings.
guy's real name?
Matthew Lillard.
Matthew
Matthew-
Lillard.
oh,
It
yes.
reminded me a lot of how he broke down when he was
In the back of the police
jail.
car, too.
Yeah. They were both just kind of like ridiculously hysterical.
Yeah. And he, in the first couple episodes, I'm not sure which ones they were exactly, but you go, oh, he's a bad guy. He's working for the bad guys, and he has no shame. But either he has literally come to terms with what he's been doing and feels so much guilt, or he has just lost himself in his head, like Matthew Lillard's character did, I think.
I did enjoy how much Dougie was just like dragging him. As you would say, it was just so funny. Like, I don't know. Part of me wanted to think maybe these little words he is choosing to say are part of him kind of naturally reacting, maybe like easing back into himself.
How about shout out to that back rub?
And I wonder too, he approaches Sinclair from the back and we see this bits of debris on his shoulders.
Right.
And I'm going, does he have super bad dandruff?
Yeah, that's what I was
What's happening
thinking.
here?
Dirty dust.
And then I started thinking it's one of those things where I start reading into, because I do feel like even though not every piece of imagery is necessarily a clue,
Yeah.
I feel like every piece of imagery is certainly intentional. So
Yeah.
I start to read into the
Yeah.
look of the white dandruff on his shoulders of the black suit, and I'm going, okay, it's a white powder. It's a little bit like the poison that he put in Dougie's coffee, but it also reminded me of in episode 8 when we're inside the atomic blast, the white debris flying around over the black screen, that image from Eraserhead.
Yeah.
And again, it's not that I'm thinking it's anything of great significance. Not like the entire mystery will be unlocked by Tony Sinclair's dandruff.
Right.
But I just think there's an interesting through line of imagery there.
Let's see. Alexander Aral says they get drawn into something so deep and dark they couldn't handle it. I mean, to me, that dandruff-looking thing could... Oh, God. Okay. Here I go.
Aliens.
Yeah.
It's alien
Get her,
eggs.
Lex.
It's alien eggs, you
Get
guys.
her.
They seeded his
Do you
scalp.
guys want to know what? I cannot wait
Till the aliens fucking show up in
until
the
I'm
spaceship.
right and they go, oh, that random crazy person. Yeah, we were just going with her brain. Because, I mean, I think that it is possibly him traveling through something, or electricity of some sort and having some debris on Stop looking at me like that, Michael. I swear.
Well, I also wonder too, like dandruff is caused by dry skin on the scalp, right?
Well, electricity is very drying.
But we saw that girl with the super dry skin rash.
Armpit.
I'm telling you, if we properly interpret Tony Sinclair's dandruff, we will unlock the mysteries of Twin Peaks spanning 30+ years.
Dandruff and rashes.
Someone in the chat just said something interesting. Mark Flanagan.
Oh yeah, Dougie poked his finger into Tony's back. He seemed to trigger him somehow.
I like whoever said, I agree with all of you.
Thanks, Alex.
Well, that's the other thing I did think though during that scene is it seemed like he was doing a bit of a massage, and I almost because there was that moment where he did seem a little bit like it triggered him, and I wonder did he hit a chakra point or something and release all of Sinclair's emotions?
Is that a Dale move
or some Dr. Jacoby stuff? I mean, honestly,
this is gonna sound weird, but I was thinking the guy might have had something in the lining in his jacket, and he was like feeling around for it. I still don't understand why he would have massaged him. It kind of was, especially out of character for Dougie.
But Dougie doesn't really even have a character anymore except baby.
right?
It's just young child.
He went from pie to massage. I don't know.
Let's talk about Shelley and Becky. We got them for a brief scene, but I think it's still very important. Becky is very upset. Steven is still missing.
I pause only to shout out 2 examples in that sentence of characters on Twin Peaks, female characters, that I would argue are quite complex indeed. But moving on.
But we just don't see a lot of them. I mean, I want to see more. I'm not saying they're not complex, but I would just like to see more of them.
Of course.
So we see them for a scene, and Shelley tells Becky, because she's very upset, to come and she'll give her some cherry pie. Automatically, Becky goes, you want to know what?
That sounds really good.
That sounds really good. I'll be right there. So, again, there's something there with the cherry pie, with the coffee.
I like that. It was like a nice little relief.
Or you think that it's just, she goes, okay, Mom just wants to give me cherry pie. I'm going to go.
And maybe I can get $20 out of her purse.
All right.
Oh, that wasn't her intention.
No, I actually read that moment. I really liked the moment where Shelley at first says, I can't really do this tonight. I'm really busy at work, a lot of hungry customers. And then has this moment where it's like, no, let me be a mom and make a loving gesture to my daughter. And I like that moment of connection. And yeah, of course, it's the most Twin Peaks thing in the world, that there's no greater symbol of fulfillment and love and connection in this life than coffee and cherry pie.
It also just seemed kind of like Becky was like thinking, is there like anything crappy I could do like better than this? She's like, well... I don't know.
I felt as though this episode there was a constant theme of cherry pie and coffee.
Well, yeah, the cherry pie was definitely the star of this episode.
And Dougie getting distracted by it as well.
And and then Tony almost drugging him with the coffee.
Norma talking about how the pies are better here, but they don't make as much money.
Absolutely.
Pie.
Well,
maybe we should be looking at 3.14 or whatever, you know.
Real quick, though, to circle back, talking about the coffee and the pie, that wonderful moment where Sinclair does break down and runs into the bathroom and tosses the poison coffee. Yes. One of my favorite laugh moments all season long was this guy going like, that bad?
That was Mike Malone, who is the prop master in the art department.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And he worked on the original Twin Peaks as well, and they gave him a part.
Yeah, that was very cool. We got to see him from the back, though.
Yeah. You got to see a little profile. He looked over.
Oh, and it's cool, too. And you've been telling us all season long, every so often, there'll be somebody who's a below-the-line crew member that Lynch will just be like, you want to be on camera today? Here you go. Stand behind Red with this giant gun and smile. But we have this scene where they go back to Battle and Bud. And Tony breaks down, is what we were referring to earlier, breaks down, confesses the entire thing. And Battle and Bud, like, really, he controls the entire situation exceptionally well and says essentially, because you're confessing, my contempt for you is subsiding, and we can make this right if you will go testify against Duncan Todd. And, of course, now Duncan Todd is the guy who gave him the assignment to kill Dougie, which he did not comply with. Duncan Todd is apparently running those couple of cops that Tony Sinclair knows. And he makes the reference to, like, well, Dougie told us about those officers. And Sinclair goes, like, they're even worse. So we need to maybe sock Tony Sinclair away somewhere safe. Oh, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
We got more time on the show today.
Electricity has come through.
Our engineer is giving us more time,
Steve
guys.
is the absolute best. Thank you so much, Steve. All right. So, now that we know we have a tiny bit more time, I feel like I was speeding through some things.
I I like how Mullins was like, "Oh, I already know, what the deal was with what's Sizemore's name or Tony."
With Tony.
Yeah, by the drawings.
Dougie even implicated himself.
Right.
Let's talk about Bobby, Big Ed, Norma, and Walter.
Finally, we get to see Big Ed, which I've been looking forward to for weeks and weeks now. Do you guys remember when they were going into production, it was announced that we're definitely going back to Twin Peaks and we're making a new season? Everett McGill hadn't really been acting much at all in about 20 some odd years, and was so off the grid that David Lynch had to take to social media and basically put out a blast. He did one of those like, "Dear Twitter friends, can anyone help me find Everett McGill?"
I remember.
And people were like, is he okay? Did something happen to him? But no, apparently Everett McGill was basically retired and was just off the grid enough that nobody had his number, he wasn't on social media, but I guess there was a fan movement that eventually helped put them back in touch. So it's great. I love Big Ed.
Well, I do too.
It seems like him and Norma have got some kind of romance going.
I thought so
I
too.
sensed a little jealousy.
It felt very much like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Like, for all we know, like Shelley and Bobby, maybe at one point they got together and are together no longer, but it seems very much like they do still quietly carry the same torch for each other that they did. And that, oh man, that broke my heart a little bit.
The way she went to go get him dinner, though, it seemed like she does that for him every night.
When in the same breath, like when Bobby's going to walk away, he says like, "No, come sit. It's no good eating alone," which of course makes the credits scene in this episode so much more sad. But he says, Bobby asks him like, "Do you want me to go sit somewhere else so you guys can?" And Ed's like, "No, it's okay. Nothing going on here." And then Norma hands him the plate, and barely a breath later, he goes, "Thanks, babe." And I was like, oh.
Oh, babe.
Oh, my heart.
And did you see it way back?
Oh, my heart.
He was watching the meeting the whole time?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not exactly... Okay. I don't know if I agree with you guys on that one. I'm not sure what I think about their relationship, but there was something that was really... I just copy and pasted it. It was said a little bit ago, and I don't know if I agree with this either, but I think it's important to be said. So Renee Michael Knudsen said, "The Lynch attitude towards women may seem objectifying, but it is done with an insight to our culture's attitude like Hitchcock knew when he did in Vertigo. A man objectifies a woman so much he destroys her and himself in the process, and that woman was called Maddie, the guy's name Ferguson." So I think that is actually a very genius comment. So.
Agreed.
Yeah, there's got to be something to that.
Yeah, like I said, there is kind of, I think, some bigger purpose to all of these underplayed characters.
Yeah,
but
and again, well, too, it's like, I agree completely. It has a lot to do with the prism through which we culturally view a lot of women. I think, again, this is a very long conversation we could have, but it's the difference between depiction and endorsement. And Twin Peaks in particular, but broadly, much of David Lynch's work is about violence and abuse and surviving abuse and possibly not surviving abuse. So again, I think... even if we don't get a lot of screen time with each of these women characters, even if a lot of them are treated very, very badly, I definitely don't think it's as simple as David Lynch doesn't like women.
No, absolutely not. I just think it's something, there's a way that he portrays them that is definitely, unique. I also think that Norma's behavior we've seen her very little, but when we do, she's acting odd. Especially in this scene, I thought she was acting odd because she's kind of playing two dudes, Walter and Ed, but she just always has a smile on her face, ready to go.
That's Norma to me. I mean, that's just Norma,
right.
Just like kind of like dull, just like there
She's
if you
not
need
dull.
a friend.
She knows how to play the game. That's what I'm thinking. I think she knows a lot more than we all think that she does.
I never felt like Norma really went after anything, so it really surprised me when I found out she had like this chain
She's
of
now
R&R
franchised the double R.
Mm-hmm. Well, she wouldn't go after Ed. She, just took her sister in, let her do whatever.
That's my point exactly. Let's just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. Not saying Norma's an alien, but let's just say...
Oh my gosh.
Shut up. Let's just say that she was. Why would you want to bring a lot of attention to yourself? I'm not saying she's an alien.
Sound effects, Steve.
Listen, I am just saying that when you want to keep under the radar, open a bunch of other franchises, other places, and in this specific place...
If you were an alien, wouldn't you want to have more than one restaurant?
Yeah, no, but in this specific place where the extraterrestrial electricity is very high, you want to keep it more on the down low.
And that's why the pies don't taste as good in the other locations, because aliens are following the recipe.
Maybe they're losing money because their electricity bill is so high.
Are you making fun of me, or are you like with me? I think it's half and half. Okay, because I mean that is kind of what I thought. Guys, what if I'm just joking? This is all a big joke.
But I really like, whether or not there's any extraterrestrial influence, I do really like this idea that Norma might actually. It makes complete sense that in 2017
Norma be an alien.
Yes, that she would be a space transplant. No, that she would consider it.
I love you guys so much for helping me with this.
And I do think, and again, Norma I think is another incredibly complex and compelling character. It makes a lot of sense for her to want to take, because it is for her about love. The coffee, the pie, the serving the same customers at the same restaurant for 30 plus years. It's all about love for her, and I totally buy that she would want to take that and spread it to as many people as possible. And that's why I really like that exchange between her and Walter, her business associate, where he basically has to say to her, right, you make it with love. Well, love doesn't pay the bills, love doesn't turn a profit. And I was like, oh, that's actually a really compelling dilemma for Norma to face. Now, will it receive a whole bunch of screen time over the rest of this season? Probably not, but who knows? For all we know, the remaining 5 hours are all about Norma's restaurant business.
What is in that cherry pie? I have to know.
Sparkles.
Oh!
And, the alien drug sparkle. I just love people in the chat. Some people have just jumped on this hashtag alien lives matter, and I love it.
Oh my god.
What about the notebook lady? She said, what if Symons, whatever, the coffee pie place where Dougie works is one of Norma's franchise places, or are they all called Double R?
They said Walter made a point of saying that all of the other locations, like the franchise name, is now Norma's Double R.
Right.
Norma's Double R.
And he was trying to suggest to her that, maybe you should think about changing your flagship location.
I really liked how she was like, well, here for 50 years, it's just been known as the Double R. Like, people are going to be like, oh, is this not the same thing anymore? Like, if they add Norma's
But I love too this idea that she wanted to preserve this piece of the local culture in the same way that it's been. Because you're right, of course, if they slap her name on the front, it doesn't, people are going to know what it is. Yeah. It doesn't change what they're serving inside. But I love that idea, and it feels very Twin Peaksy. The people that have been in the town forever want to keep the town as close to the way it's always been as they can.
And is that like Walter trying to take a little hit on her? Like, Walter's the guy that came in, right? The stats, you know what I mean?
Maybe for some of that
like
Norma
girls like that
money.
kind of stuff,
Well, there's a little smooch introduction right up top.
Oh yeah, they give some kissies. They definitely give some kissies.
Where I was like, and my heart just ached for Ed, who is still wearing someone's wedding ring, which I think is it, because for all we know, he's still with Nadine and maybe isn't. But also, like, I've been trying to track wedding rings. I noticed for the first time tonight, and it was probably there last week and I missed it, but Shelley's still got a wedding ring around her neck, and I'm wondering, okay, that's presumably Bobby's ring that she's still wearing.
Well, speaking
of Leo's?
Yikes.
Oh, hell no. It is not Leo's, please. Dear Lord, it's definitely not Leo's. Speaking of Nadine, though, let's talk about her and Dr. Jacoby. So she has her drape store, and the shovel is front and center.
Yes.
He comes, and I'm like, love connection. Just kidding.
I liked it when she's like, can I call you Dr. Amp?
Oh, yeah, she's a big fan.
See, you said just kidding, but I think you're right. I think we're seeing some sparks fly a little bit between Nadine and Jacoby, not just because she's a really big fan, but it also seems like he had a very specific memory of the last time he saw her, too.
You were crawling on your hands and knees looking for a potato.
And of course, I think it's, of course, very telling that he remembers that moment from 7 years ago so clearly.
He was looking at her butt.
But also, in Secret History of Twin Peaks, they plant the early seeds of a relationship.
Didn't he give her, like, an eye exam or
After
something?
the accident that cost Nadine her eye, she was apparently treated by Jacoby, and Jacoby, in the text in the book, in his patient records, makes multiple comments about how it's like, she's so beautiful, like even without the eye. So it's great. It's really fun to see how they pay that off now in this episode.
Yeah,
or at least begin to pay it off.
Dr. Amp's above all that, he's all about the soul and the spirit and digging yourself out of shit.
Well,
yeah, I loved it when she was like, I'm like digging myself out. Like, that was so great. And I love how we did find out the drapes are on a computer.
Yes.
They just come and go.
Love it.
And she doesn't live there. She said that she leaves out the back door every night. I'm sorry, Nadine is my favorite.
Like
so I'm
aliens
like, what is
do,
going on?
you know? They don't live here. They just go out the back door back to outer space.
If anyone's an alien, it's Nadine.
Do you want to
sure.
know what? I'm just like glancing at the chat just because it's in the background, but people are not disagreeing. Everyone's like, wait, who's an alien? Is this an alien? Is this an alien? And so I think that people are finally catching on to the fact that a lot of our characters might be taken over by aliens, or the entire time they've been taken over by aliens.
The Notebook lady. What was up? Sarah Palmer and the ever-looping video on TV.
Yes.
And that took me like a minute to realize that it was a loop.
Which
and I'm like,
too.
I can't do this.
Michael,
20-second-ish
Michael almost got up and he goes, I can't do this video over and over again.
It was too much.
But that's the only glimpse of Sarah we see, is her watching this old-timey boxing match on a loop of about 20-ish seconds and then wandering presumably into the kitchen where this sound is coming from, because you referenced last week that there's just something in the kitchen.
Right. There's always just something.
It's like the microwave.
That's where the ship is.
Oh, it's something. You notice that?
Yes, and I mean there was a scene last week. Who came to her door? I'm trying to remember.
Hawk.
Yes, Hawk. Hawk came to her door, and she was a totally different person. Seemed like, and you know, I think that this is kind of the inner workings. We're starting to see what's going on with Sarah Palmer, and I'll get into this in predictions, but I think that she's being used as kind of an outlet. Get it? Hey. Okay. So, I have so many things to say about Audrey.
So many things.
My
First of
God.
all, I was so disappointed that she didn't go to the club and make
because
her
she
appearance.
can't.
I just want her to have fun.
Lex, do you think do you think that Audrey is actually not in the real world because we've really only seen her interact with Charlie?
There are two theories that seem to be running neck and neck right now online, and I only had a little bit to look into these, and I know where I fall. If it's one or the other, could be none of the above. One theory, given what we saw in this episode, is what you're describing, that maybe Audrey didn't wake up from her coma. She's still in the coma, and this is somehow her psyche either trying to work her through something or whatever, like trying to process things, trying to guide her, what have you. The other theory, and if I buy into one or the other, this is the one I lean towards, is that she suffered some type of psychotic break, and it's possible that Charlie is a therapist of some kind that is trying to work her through it. She definitely seemed to me like she's certainly lost herself.
But that is her husband, for sure. Right?
He says that he is, but it's entirely possible that he's working her through, supporting the fantasy, which is something we've actually seen on Twin Peaks when Nadine believed she was a high school student for such a long time.
Right.
They were encouraged to essentially, as long as it's not hurting anybody directly, support this fantasy, and maybe she'll live it out and progress through it. So I'm wondering if maybe Charlie is some type of therapist, and he's going with the story that he's her husband to help work her through something. As
though Big Ed did with Nadine. I mean, they were married, actually, and maybe Audrey and Charlie were perhaps married at some point, and we're just seeing a different narrative of it.
Your theory was really interesting to me.
Which
you
one?
thought might be going on with Audrey.
That I thought she may have dementia. I mean, that's the signs that I saw.
Just because she's old? Well, I mean, not that old.
I don't know.
Well, like you were saying, we haven't seen Audrey with anyone else, so that makes me feel like some kind of wacky's going on.
Yeah, I think that, okay, so yeah, the Notebook guy or lady says both of these Audrey theories make sense, not sure which I lean towards. I'm not sure either. I think it's probably a third theory that
it's entirely she's
probably
on the alien ship right now.
Oh my God.
But the
Bud Jensen. Bud Jensen probably looks like Humpty Dumpty. I like that. I looked at Sam. I was like, that man is a good 2 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I love that at this point in the series of Twin Peaks, we are just playing make believe, because it has been. This is 13 episodes, you guys, and it is still so insanely confusing. And vague.
I would highly encourage everybody who's listening, everybody at this table, to go back over the next week and binge the entire season thus far. It's actually really straightforward, all things considered. It's just week to week, you're right. You have no idea what the context for a lot of these moments are. But I think in hindsight, a lot of it makes a lot more sense, even though I can't tell you the why behind about half of it. But the pacing, that's the big thing that I noticed over the past week rewatching it. The pacing, if you've got the time, like 3 or 4 of these a night over a few nights, the pacing is actually far, far more satisfying than it feels week to week.
I said this, I think, from the beginning, that I think this would have been amazing for just a binge series on Netflix, essentially. I think it would have been really awesome. It's still awesome
this isn't
every
the
week.
Gilmore Girls. Come on now.
I mean, what if it was?
But also, the only reason I have big reservations about the Audrey still in a coma theory so far is that in Twin Peaks, like, yes, everything is super weird, and we don't necessarily know why every single weird thing is weird.
Yeah.
But when something otherworldly is definitely going on, they've always made it pretty explicit. So I definitely think, yes, something odd is going on here, and I think hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll get a little bit more enlightened as to what it actually is. I don't necessarily buy that she's in some other realm right now just because of how straight they're playing these scenes, despite how odd and confusing the content of the scenes are.
I will say I've watched so many TV shows and movies where people are in comas or in another place, and then after you figure out they're there, you go, oh, that was so easy. They were interacting with one person the entire time. Why didn't I realize that? So until I see Audrey interact with someone but Charlie, that's when I'll believe that she is not in a coma or in some, in
But
some
who
other
would have
realm.
Charlie been when she was younger if she was been in a coma this whole time?
It could just be a voice in her head that's like manifesting
She just
into
manifested
a person.
Charlie.
But the one thing that keeps me away from that is because, and I feel like David Lynch was probably heard this too, is supposedly in your dreams you're never going to appear to yourself older than you are. So I would you can't really fathom yourself.
But Dale has the first dream episode in the original show. Dale sees himself 25 years older.
Oh, that's right.
That to me wasn't necessarily a dream. That was he's seeing.
And it could be right. Well, that's the thing too. Is like if it is Audrey in a coma, Charlie wouldn't necessarily have to have been somebody from her life. He could have been a manifestation of her psyche. He could be from another dimension, et cetera, et cetera. But the other thing,
he's an alien.
Wait, Lisa, there are these
I like
amazing comments.
Joshua, I love how you said, I'll say it again, fuck Walter.
But, oh wait, look at the comments before that about Audrey and her coma and the rotary phone.
Oh yeah, there's this rotary phone in that scene, so there's something to do with the time.
I don't know.
That is wacky
there's
here.
still a rotary phone in some houses I've been in the last month.
Is it in your house, Michael Shirley? Because Michael Shirley has the most amazing / old school creepy house.
It's like a bachelor pad
I've ever seen. Okay.
The biggest thing though that like is hanging me up though is a few episodes ago we had that guy run into the R and ask if anyone's seen Billy.
Yes.
So we've had an explicit real-world reference to a Billy being missing.
Well,
now
I'm leaning towards the dementia then.
I definitely think that she's unwell and she's working with a therapist, or it's some other. It's probably aliens.
I kind of like wish I could just put money on this. Honestly, I wish I could go to Vegas, and if I had $1 million, I would put $1 million on it, and then I would end up with millions because it's going to be all aliens.
But are they going to be like green or gray aliens?
No.
Are they going to be what kind
They're
of
body
body
hoppers?
look like?
Creamy,
Their
corny
body, no, they're body
Are they
hoppers.
staticky? Are they?
Yes, they're staticky. Of course, they're staticky.
The frequency's different.
Yes.
I say I need a visual.
Okay, let's talk about James.
Oh, let's talk about James.
Oh my God.
Jessica Zor, who, you know, I don't know her exact name in the series. I loved Gossip Girl. I doubt anyone watching ever watched that.
Gossip Girl.
Yeah, I mean, she's a beautiful girl, and she was listed in the original cast, which brought some, you know, attention to that she was going to be in this. So she's finally in this, and James is performing. She's crying, and she's sitting in that same booth, it looks like, that all the other hot girls are sitting in.
Sad hot girls.
hot girl
At the
booth.
end of every... And I'm like, oh, God, they're going to die. Like, they're pretty sure they just die every
Another
time.
character, too, with numbers written on her arm, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's her, right? That wasn't her? I feel like I saw
Wait, that was
arm.
her?
In the booth that James is singing to.
Oh,
Right
yeah,
here,
no, she had
on her left arm.
she did have the numbers written on her, of the coordinates, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Was
You
it just
guys,
like, it was
so-
4 digits? Was it like, it was like 8, 6
It was
or something?
7, 3, 4. I would have to look
8,
again.
6, 7, 5, 3.
That's what it was.
All I have to say about this is that you would think after 25 years he could have learned another goddamn song.
I loved this so much, though.
Are you kidding me? I heard that, and I literally grabbed Michael, I think, by the hair, and I go, oh, God.
Was it a positive, negative? Was
it was
an
a very
uncomfortable?
No, are you kidding me?
Nostalgia.
Season 1, when he plays that, and it's Donna and him
It's
and
like
Maddie.
the dumbest,
and
but
I'm
it's
like,
so dumb it's good.
I get it. that is when he sang that, I go, oh, I get the appeal of James when he sang that song. And
I love it.
And now it's happening again.
On a stage where we've previously seen the Chromatics, Au revoir Simone, the Nine Inch Nails play, James Hurley gets to reprise Just You and I. It looks like the same guitar and the same amp, maybe.
Yeah.
But also, I love that much like when he first played it at the Hayward House in the original run,
the two girls have to sing it with him.
Well, the backup vocals, but more than that, the ethereal drum and bass tracks that seem to come out of absolutely nowhere are also present. But I spent the entire sequence, he plays the entire song, I spent the entire sequence aggressively trying to compose myself and then oscillating back and forth between that and just clutching myself laughing.
I think Lex might have gotten just as excited as I did about this. Lindsay M said something super interesting in the chat. Do you see it, Lisa?
Yeah, something about that girl crying at the Roadhouse reminded me of Laura Palmer.
Like, what if these are Laura Palmers all over again? It's like a circle.
It's that alien dandruff that has been sprinkled over the whole town, making new Lauras.
It's like you guys are my older brothers making fun of me all the time.
I'm that shitty sister.
And yeah, you're just the one going along with everything, and then you'll be like, hey, Sam, I know you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm right. I don't probably. I think they're.
No, I know what you meant to say. You meant to say, I know I'm right.
Well, no, I don't know that I'm right, but I want to be right. Okay, so that was a very interesting part. And then the end credits with Ed.
Yeah.
A little soup to go.
Where we
seemed like it really bothered you, Lex.
It's such a bummer because Ed, it does seem like, and now maybe Ed goes home and he's still sharing a house with Nadine, but it definitely seems like it's. We don't know. It's possible, but he's certainly not more happy in that relationship if he's still in it than he was 25 years ago. But it's that line he says to Bobby a little bit earlier where he says, it's no good eating alone. And our last scene is of Ed completely alone at night in the gas farm eating double R to-go soup, completely alone and just staring out the window. And he burns something, a small piece of paper that looks folded up. And I'm going, was that like a note he was going to give to Norma? And then Walter came in and he didn't. And now he's just sitting alone burning it. Poor Ed.
Right.
Oh.
Well, on that note, guys, let's get into some predictions for next week.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV
predictions. Who wants to start us off, kids? Take the log. Let's pass it around.
You first.
I think Tony's gonna die. Either he's gonna kill himself or someone's gonna kill him.
Okay, I'm going last.
Okay, well, so Mr. C now has some coordinates. I would assume on some level that those coordinates are going to lead him to converge with everybody else, presumably in Twin Peaks. No idea how they're going to fold Dougie into all of this. We got so close with the Fuscos tonight, where they matched the fingerprints from Dougie Jones to both Mr. C and Special Agent Dale Cooper, and somewhat understandably found the story to be so completely preposterous on its face that they just threw it in the trash. We heard somebody making quite a commotion in the office outside of the room where they were congregating. I'm wondering if maybe they pulled in the drug girl from across the street from the Jones house.
Oh, yes.
What?
119?
With the son.
The one who's
119?
This could end up being absolutely nothing, but all of the ruckus we heard from what I assume was the reception area of the office might have been, it was a woman's voice.
Yeah.
It sounded completely frantic. It's possible that we may see that character be pulled in to ask about, like, who did you see blowing the car up? Did you see anybody?
Isn't that kind of late, or are we in slow? We're still like day one in Twin Peaks.
The whole
forever,
thing, it really does
feel.
seem like so far this is all taking place over a few days. So
that's nuts.
Also, what's the over/under on watching the two Coopers battle to the death in an arm wrestling match?
I
and then
said
at the very end,
We talked about that.
I literally said that, Lex, as we were watching.
Then at the very end, Wally Brando rides in with a flaming sword, tosses it to Dougie, and Dougie on reflex decapitates Mr. C.
I don't know if they can't be together. Like, if those two Coops can be together.
Why? It happens in a million
Or-
shows. I would love to know. Okay.
If they have
Give me
to
the
kill
log.
each other.
Oh,
Okay.
Lex, did you mention that photo you saw online? Did you mention that last week about the Laura and Dale together at their house?
Yes, there's a set photo, but I don't want to get into something that I think is explicitly
let's not talk about
spoilerish.
that yet.
Oh,
But
wow.
there's a
It's
set
out
photo
there.
that leaked real early in production that would seem to indicate, certainly before the finale, before the final moments of the finale, we're going to get some moments that I think everybody's been waiting for all season.
Thank God.
I just hope they mean what they look like.
I think that Sunny Jim has a very, very big significance. Guys, why are you laughing?
The comments. I'm sorry. The chat. You guys are funny.
More aliens and more dandruff next week.
Okay. Also, there was a very good comment. Let's see. Anne Marie McDonald said Becky has Lynch victim written all over her. I've said that. I completely agree. Ezekiel Kakis. I butchered that. Sorry. Diana's Mike. Interesting theory. And Rianne Martin said, I predict more aliens and more dandruff next week. So on that note, guys, thank you so much. Oh, I thought you
know what
did.
I think?
I'm sorry.
Log.
This is your log, too.
I know.
This is your log.
I think we're going to see Norma and Big Ed get back together.
I hope so.
I think. There's like no doubt.
I'm still pulling for those kids.
Oh, wow.
Now you can end the show.
God.
Actually, no. Okay. On that note, thank you guys again for tuning in. And you know what? We love all your live viewership and you all being here and commenting with us, coming up with theories. And for those of you that believe in aliens, I love you. My name is Sam Davidson. You can find me SamD43, Twitter and Instagram. Where can everyone find you guys on social media?
Hey, you can find me everywhere at Lisa Mason Lee, and you can check out my website, lisaleetv.com.
You can find me at Michael X Shirley on Twitter and Instagram, and check out my blog on ilovemichaelshirley.com.
I am all over social media at the Lex Michael, and if you follow a lot of shows here at AfterBuzz, you may also know my friend and co-host Tari J. Miller. He and I have a new podcast called Missing Out, where we turn each other onto pieces of popular culture, movies, TV, books, music that the other person missed, and we essentially hold our hands through this initial experience, and we share cultural backstories and stuff. It's great. We like it. This week we're doing a show on Tom Waits' album Rain Dogs, which is a personal favorite of mine. Tari had never heard it, so come join us. We drop episodes every Tuesday, Missing Out on iTunes.
And of course, don't forget to follow AfterBuzz TV at AfterBuzz TV on all social media platforms. Rate, review, subscribe. We love hearing the good feedback. So thanks for tuning in. Be nice, be kind, and have a great week till you see you next time. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.